Hello, YouTube. I'm Damian Moody. I also go by Kashmere Majesty or Red Riding Hood, and I'm back again with another live video. And in today's live video, I'll be reading Unbreak My Heart, a memoir by Toni Braxton. And this is the back of the book. I have the hardcover version. This is actually my second time getting this book. So the back says, as I ponder the most distressing moments of my journey, those times when life has become burdensome enough to take me to the brink, I'm looking ahead on that ultimate hope that peering back at my past heartbreaks will ultimately lead to healing. Okay, so this is Unbreak My Heart by Toni Braxton. And this book was done in 2014. It says, to Denim and Diesel, the two gifts who will forever make my heart whole. Oh, here my nose go acting up again. So the contents are introduction, losing my breath, country life in the suburbs, pillar of Detroit, homie Toni Braxton, Levi's and puppy love, Miracle at Amoco, Good Life, Going Solo, the Boomerang soundtrack, Grammy Nightmare, Bankrupt, Headlines and Heartache, Battle Wounds, Life is Not a Fairy Tale, Leaks, Lies, and Revelations, Dangerous Liation, A Motherly Instinct, The Vegas Showstopper, How Did I Get Here Again, Braxton Family Values, Breathing Again, Acknowledgements. Now we at the introduction. I'm at a crossroads. I'm at a crossroads. More than 4 decades ago, I set out on a journey as a little girl with a huge dream. One that has carried me all the way from a dirt-filled plot in Severn, Maryland, to a stage of the Grammys and beyond. In one way, it's a phenomenal gift to have your wildest dream actually come true. But in another way, when that happens, it can leave you with a profound sense of uncertainty about what to do next. That's the juncture at which I stand, right in the middle of creating a roadmap of what my life could look like tomorrow, next year, in a decade, forever. My dream is as much born of passion as it is of deep reflection, and is the privilege of carving out a new path in adulthood during life's second act. This book is the sum total of that reflection on every page and every sentence, and with every anecdote I recount, I am daring to examine both the steps and missteps that have led me to this moment. But I'm not simply looking back as some kind of emotional exercise. For me, the point is to find a way to the next best place. Oh, to find my way to the next best place. I'm sorry. Someone wise once said that pain is, is information. It's our body's way of telling us, pay attention, something isn't working here. So, especially as I ponder the most distressing moments of my journey, those times when life has become burdensome enough to take me to the brink, I'm looking ahead with that ultimate hope. And what is that hope? That peering back at my past heartbreaks will ultimately lead to healing. That is the only real point in reflecting on any experience, to find a purpose in it that leads you towards wholeness. Nothing about my story and yours may seem to resemble each other at first glance. And yes, it's true. My mountaintop moments and my lowest points really are unique to me. Only I can tell you what it's like to live through a combination of experiences that has filled my years. But from another perspective, my past is also very much like the one you who travel. You may not have grown up as a firstborn of six in a town few people have even heard of. You may not have been diagnosed with lupus, cared for a son with autism, or cried your way through two humiliating bankruptcies in an agonizing divorce. But like every other person who has ever lived, you know what it means to ache, to love, to laugh, to regret. Our circumstances may be different, but the emotions that come with being human are what connect us all. The lessons of my journey are plentiful, and here is one. I realized just how much of myself I suppressed. I sacrificed a lot of who I am to make the people around me happy. No longer I entrusted people who didn't have my best interest at heart. That chapter is now permanently closed. I don't know exactly what is the coming years will bring, but I do know this: I will never again hand over my power to another human being. To do so is to hand over life itself, and long last, I'm getting mine back. You may know me best by the songs I shared with the world. Breathe again. 7 whole days. Unbreak my heart. To know my creations is to indeed know. excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. To know my creations is to indeed know one part of who I am. But behind every lyric, behind each of those melodies and countless others, there there lies a story that I've never been brave enough to tell. In this moment, standing at this crossroads, I had when last found the courage. Oh my God. Ah, excuse me. Ugh. All right, so y'all know me. I'm the type of person who like to look at pictures in these books, especially if it's a book about somebody's life. Some of the books I have pictures in them, and some don't. I don't show the pictures; I just read the book. But yes, Unbreak My Heart does have pictures of Toni Braxton and her family. It has a picture of her as a baby. It has a picture of a family childhood home and her growing up. It has a picture of her parents, and her siblings. Uh, More pictures of her growing up, her dating, school photos, Her in the start of her career with long hair. Her and her sisters. More career photos. Her on Broadway. A postcard for Braxton the Bees. Broadway. Her wedding photo. Her pregnancy. Stage performances. And that's about it. Um, yeah, I don't think it ain't no more photos. All right, y'all. So before I start on, let me see. 'Cause y'all know me. I don't like to read too long. All right, chapter one ain't that long. But before I started chapter one, the book title is actually one of my favorite Toni Braxton songs. I had plenty of favorite Toni Braxton songs, but "Unbreak My Heart" is one of my favorite Toni Braxton songs and one of my favorite Toni Braxton music videos. I'm not sure if this was my actual first time, but the first time I remember ever seeing um, Toni Braxton "Unbreak My Heart" music video, I believe I might have been at my uncle their house, and this was years ago. This was years ago. I don't remember the exact year, but I believe it may. I believe I might have seen the music video for the first time at his house. Watching videos in one of my cousins' room. Because I don't remember seeing it at my great grandparents' house, although that's where I usually will watch a lot of my music videos. I think that I watched some, I think I first seen this video at my Uncle Darrell house. I don't know if I spent the night over there, if I was just over there for a time being, but I do remember, I do think that that's where I was at when I first seen the Toni Braxton music, Unbreak My Heart music video. And the crazy thing about it is, throughout the whole video, I always remember the end when she's standing there with the white dress and it's cut out on the side, and it's like she got, I don't know if it was supposed to be a waist chain, or I guess that's just the way her panties were or whatever. But I just remember her nice long white dress with the cutout side, and I remember her curly hair, and for whatever reason, I always loved that part of the whole video. Don't get me wrong, I love the whole video. Her and Tyson Beckford. I love the storyline. I love the song. I love the whole video. But for some reason, I always pick a certain part of a music video I like. And when it comes to that music video, I love the ending. I love her hair. I love the dress. And it seems like throughout her career, she must have loved it too, because it seemed like most of her dresses was always cut out at the side. I don't know. But yep, I love that dress and I loved her curly hair. It even got to the point where one time I was at the wig store trying to find a wig similar to how her hair looked in that one part of the music video. But my wig, the curls might have been more giving Michael Jackson back in the day than trying to get Toni Braxton. Or better yet, I was giving Sylvester in the damn "You Make Me Feel Mighty Real" music video. But I tried to brush it out a little and still tried to get Toni Braxton, and I could not get Toni Braxton. I tried. But anywho, now chapter one is losing my breath. The happiest day of my career arrived on February morning in 1991. Nothing could have prepared me for how that day would end. Hey, what are you doing? I immediately recognized the voice on the phone as that of Greg, my then mentor. Not much, I lied, since I've been pacing the carpeted floor of the townhouse I shared with a label mate in Ornell, Maryland. At the time, I was a student at Bowie State University, which is now the University of Maryland at Bowie, or Bowie, whatever it is. Uh, what's up? I tightened my grip on the receiver and pressed it to my right ear. Even before he could answer, I somehow knew my life was about to shift. The only surprise would be how. Oh shit, I'm over here reading without my glasses. Since years before that phone call, I always dreamed I'd be a famous singer. My mother, Evelyn, who once turned down the music scholarship so she could marry my father, Michael, filled our Maryland home with music. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. Mommy would bail out in an operatic style when I was just a toddler. With so much music in the air, I and my five younger sisters, siblings, Mikey, Tracy, Tawana, Trina, and Tamar. Y'all, some of y'all may know, y'all need to watch Braxton Favorite Values. Yes, she only has one brother named Mikey. Pretty much Michael Jr. Once again, it's Mikey, Tracy, Tawanda, Trina, and Tamar. Learn to harmonize practically before we learn to speak. And since we spent nearly as much time in church as we did at home, my father eventually became a pastor. We were surrounded by a rich and soulful tunes, by the rich and soulful tunes my parents passed on to us. Mommy eventually recognized our potential and turned my sisters and me into the Braxtons, a quintet style singing group. That was just the beginning. On weekends and after school, under Mommy's strict guidance, the five of us rehearsed for hours in churches around town. Each time we performed, usually right after my father had delivered a riveting sermon to a packed house, we heard a familiar affront. I said affront, I meant refrain. Sorry, y'all. Them Braxton girls sure can sing. All that practicing eventually paid off. In 1989, we signed a deal with Arista Records, and a year later, we put out our first single, Good Life. That song wasn't actually a hit. It reached number 79 on the Billboard Hot Black Singles chart, but we were still over the moon. Not so for Arista. Though Cloud Davis and the other record execs recognized that we had talent, no one quite knew how to package a group of squeaky clean sisters who ranged from the 23-year-old with a contralto voice, me, and all the way down to a 13-year-old who still wore braces, Tamar. Ooh. So after our lukewarm debut, Clive handed us off to a songwriting and production duo that had just formed a label under Arista. That's right, Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and Antonio L.A. Reid invited us to fly to Atlanta and put on a showcase audition. We were elated. How exactly do you prepare for such a make or break moment? My sisters and I did it by practicing like crazy. Every day for a month, I drove from my place in Laurel to my parents' home in Savon. so we could rehearse. I put together a melody that included harmonies from the Carpenter song "Close to You" to our first single "Good Life" and Jan Jackson's hit "Love Will Never Do Without You." Throughout the performance, each one of us had song. Mine was "Good God Is," a gospel song. That's my song. And Kanye West did his version of it, if that's the one she referring to. We sang a cappella for some of the pieces, and I played the keyboard for others. My solo was to be the final one of the showcase. In between our marathon rehearsals, I shot for our stage outfits. As the eldest, I was in charge of that. So I drove over to Learners, a store that carried plenty of extra smalls, and picked out black stirrup pants and leggings for the girls and a pair of keyhole earrings for each of us. Tracy got the cutest outfit, the black one-piece catsuit along with the matching black jacket that had gold trim on it, very salt and pepper. As the shorty in the group, I was barely 5'1". I had to find some way to stand out. That's why I chose a special outfit for myself. White biker shorts with lace trim, a belt with a silver buckle, a white jacket with long sleeves, and suede boots that I wore scrunched down. Very 1980s Madonna. Mommy and Dad also brought each of us black leather commodious trench Mommy and Daddy also bought each of us a black leather commodity-ish trench coat. A couple days later, we flew off from our home in Maryland and toward a kind of opportunity you only get once. The night before the audition, my sisters and I, our parents, our manager Greg, and Vernon Slaughter, then vice president of LaFace Records, spread out across 6 rooms at the Hilton Garden Inn on Peachtree Street. When the bellhop when the bellhop took our suitcases, I offered him a tip. Though content- the continental breakfast and coffee were free, I also proudly left a few crumbled dollar bills for the waiter. I felt so grown up, like a star on the episode of the Dynasty. The following morning, the driver picked us up from the hotel in a white, extra long, stretch limo and dropped us off at an empty, dimly lit club in Piedmont Road. We arrived at exactly 2 p.m., and we waited, and we sweated, and we squirmed. Then, when LA and Kenny finally strolled in around 2:45, each of us stood up, shyly greeted the two of them, and uh, to the stage. We then took our places and launched right into our opening song, Good Life. The lights were so bright that I could hardly see their faces, which is probably good because the butterflies were already swarming in my stomach. Yet our dirt didn't stop us from delivering a great show. All those years of church performances kicked in, and we nailed every one of the songs. By the time I took the keyboard for my solo, my anxiousness had given way to confidence. She could really play. Kenny leaned over and said to LA, who may have thought I was faking it during the other numbers. By the way, I was holding my hands. Kenny could tell I was a real pianist. After audition, LA and Kenny walked up to the stage and chatted with us. Everybody else here play an instrument. Anybody else here play an instrument? Asked LA. Tracy plays the drums. I blurred out, she plays the drums. He said, I suddenly remembered that LA had been a star drummer in a deal in R&B band. My throat tightened. Well, she kind of plays the church drums, I explained. Oh, okay, he said. But then he didn't ask her to show him. Years later, I wonder whether I robbed Tracy of her big moment by memorizing minimizing her drum skills. We were impressed with you guys, LA finally said. You were great, Kenny added. Really, I thought, could that be true? A moment later, we walked off the stage, put on our matching trenches, and waited for nearly an hour while Greg and our parents talked with LA and Kenny. When the limo arrived back to the hotel, Greg gave us a reason to feel hopeful. And they really like you guys, he said. I think they're going to sign you. Whatever happened, I knew we'd given our best. Back in Maryland, we told every person we knew about our audition. What was Babyface like? A friend asked me. He was the nicest guy, cool, and actually I met him twice. I once talked to him backstage on Soul Train. In 1998, I took. Oh, hold on. My nose is a little stuffy, y'all. Sorry. In 1998, I took a cross-country trip to Los Angeles and went to Soul Train. As the following 2 weeks snaked along, and I waited word from LA and Kenny through my manager. I could hardly contain my excitement. Every morning I called Greg and said, "Have you heard anything?" He hadn't. So on the morning when Greg actually did call me, my eagerness had already reached level 10. So I had some good news for you, he said with hardly a pause between each word. LA and Kenny thought you guys were great. I froze. As that statement was sinking in, Greg followed it with another, but I also had some bad news, he said, continued. They don't want to sign your sisters. I stopped breathing for a moment. Did I hear him wrong? What do you mean? I said once I recovered. They're about to sign another girl group. Greg explained, and quite honestly, they don't know what to do with you and your sister because your age differences are so extreme. They acknowledge that all of you can sing, but long pause. LA and Kennedy only want you. Well, I finally said with high blood racing through my veins, I'm not going to do it if they don't sign all of us. Let me talk to my mother about it. Tracy, excuse me, Tony, I wouldn't do it if I were you, Greg said, lowering his voice by a full octave. Let's just sort through this and come up with a plan before we present it to your mom, okay? No, 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 I'm going to call mommy. I shot back. She'll know what to do. I'll let you know and call you later. You can't say no to LA and Kenny. They can sign any artist they want, said Greg. You're so close now, Tony. Don't let this pass you by. I knew my mother would have the best answer, especially in light of a story she often told us. When I was much younger, she'd say, I was in a singer group, The Vuette. A rep from Motown wanted to sign only me, but I turned it down. There's no telling where my life would be today if I had taken that deal. So that evening, I picked up the phone to call the one woman I trust more than any other in the world. We love to showcase mommy. I began. I paused, but but they don't want to sign the other girls. They just want me. Told Simon, did you hear me, mommy? I heard you, she said sternly. So what are you going to do, Tony? I don't really know what I'm going to do, I said, struggling, struggling, I'm sorry. Shrugging, shit. I'm just talking to you about it. I wanted to remind her that she was once in the same situation when she was a young girl in the same group. Well, it sounds like you already made up your mind, Mom cut in. I told her I'd be over to talk to the girls about it. My brain shifted to overdrive. What just happened? I thought. Did I say? Uh, what did I say wrong? Why was my mother so upset? Immediately, I called my brother Mikey at my parents' home and recounted the scene. You gotta do what's best for you, Tony, said Mikey, who was always the level-headed one. You're never going to get another chance like this. I thanked him for his encouragement, and then we hung up. Less than an hour later, he called again. Tony, you better come to the house right now. What do you mean? I said, my heartbeat quickened. Mommy is talking to the girls. He said, just get over here fast. And half hour later, I came through the back door of my parents' home. Mommy passed me in the kitchen and didn't speak. The energy was so thick you could cut it. I darted into Mikey's room and sat down. What's going on? I asked, pressing him. Well, my brother real still makes me shudder. Right after I called my mother that evening with the news from Greg, said Mikey. Mommy had gathered the girls. You're about to hear something that's going to vex you to your soul, she told them. The devil is raging, and we've got to bond that enemy. As Mikey told me the story, I stared at him in disbelief. Once I regained my composure, I wandered through the house and asked each one of the girls to join me in the living room. Mommy sat off to the side with her arms folded. My dad joined her, and he had the same tense energy. Why don't you tell your sisters what you told me? She said. I stood before them for what felt like an eternity before I uttered my first syllable. LA and Kenny really liked all of us, I said. I stopped to inhale before I delivered part two, but I mumbled. They only want to sign me. At once, the room erupted with a sound that I hope to never hear again. All four of my sisters sobbed as they cupped their faces in their hands. Finally, after a full 2 minutes of bawling, Tracy looked up at me. Tony, maybe you could sign and then come back to get us after you make a name for yourself, she said. I nodded and promised to do so. I hugged and kissed each of my sisters, and I tried to kiss my parents, but they turned away. So I then left the room and drove home in tears. Once at home, I sat in my apartment and stared into space. Years later, I would begin to understand my mother's reaction, but on that evening in February, I didn't at all see it coming. Yes, my parents have always been tough, yet I would have never anticipated that they would be so angry at me. As the sun descended on the best and worst day of my life, I had never felt more confused. Maybe Mikey and Tracy are right, I thought. Maybe I should just take the deal. After rehearsing the episode over and over again in my head, I cried myself to sleep. At 10 the next morning, I finally called Greg. How did it go with your mother? He asked. Not good, I said. I told you it wasn't going to be good, Tony, he said. So what are you going to do? I drew in a breath. I'm going to sign. I finally signed. I finally said. And that was the beginning of my guilt. In the coming years, I did everything I could to help my sisters get their big break. I took them along with me to events and award shows. I hired them to be my background singers. I introduced them to other artists and music execs. I even helped them secure their own record deal on on Face Records. Yeah, in spite of how much I invested, they never experienced the same level of fame that I did. So I carried that weight through every part of my career. Through 6 Grammys, through 60 million records sold around the world, through two humiliating bankruptcies, a heart wrenching divorce, and an illness that still threatens my life, and at every major milestone along my path, my mother's admonition echoed in the background. Don't forget your sisters. I did in fact, since the day mommy made it clear that my success was to always be split 5 ways, I fought to be sure that my sisters could share their voices. What I didn't expect is that I somehow lose my own. Until now, my answer is yes to the soul deal, but it was the saddest yes I ever given. Exactly 1 week after I signed, I traded the only home I know for an unfamiliar world just over the horizon. What I discovered during my journey would change me forever. All right. So that was Unbreak My Heart by Toni Braxton, Chapter 1. I'm not going to read too much because I'm over here sniffling and stuff. But seems like it's a good book so far. I read it some years ago, but I don't really remember much. I do know I bought it. I actually was supposed to get a hardcover, but I ended up getting a soft cover. I think I got the book back around 2016 or 17, one of those years. I think I actually did a YouTube video showing y'all the books I got. Cause I got Common, I got Toni Braxton, and somebody else. And I had dogs, and my dog ended up getting into my toothpaste and bit through my toothpaste and had toothpaste all over. And it got all over my Toni Braxton books, so I had to throw the book away. I don't even remember which dog did it. And then the crazy thing about it is, no, I'll get back to y'all in the next video.